news out of the way, let's dive into why we're here today. That's to talk about Marvel. And we're primarily going to be talking about the MCU because they've been the biggest purveyors of Marvel projects for the past 25 years. But I think in relation, we also should talk about Sony's animated Marvel movies and the live action Spider-Man spinoffs. They've all been a part of this Marvel conversation that we've had on this podcast for the past 5.5 years. And it's no exaggeration to say we've talked about Marvel more than anything else on this show, more than DC, more than Star Wars, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, whatever fandom franchise you can think of. Marvel has been the number one topic of conversation for a variety of reasons. And in particular, with the existence of our show, unfortunately, we did not come along in the heyday of Marvel. We sort of caught them. We sort of caught them, on a little bit of a downturn, sort of out of their prime, in a state of trying to fight back to the top of the Hollywood mountain. They've had some wins, obviously, over the course of these past 5.5 years, but we've spent a lot of time being very, very, very critical of what we've seen out of Marvel. And it turns out that we've reviewed no less than, I think, about 35 or 36 different Marvel projects over the course of this podcast. That's MCU stuff, that's Sony stuff, all related here and there. And what's even more interesting about that is that we didn't have anything from Marvel to review for the first year and a half of our existence, because we started the show after Spider-Man Far From Home had come out. The conclusion of the Infinity Saga had already happened. And so we started in October of 2019. We didn't have anything from Marvel to review until WandaVision. Went all of 2020, all of, the first half of COVID without anything. And so it's been an interesting ride. But I say all that to say is that we've spent a lot of time being critical of this franchise and of what we've seen. I mean, countless hours at this point talking about it, litigating some of the problems and the challenges. I don't necessarily think we need to do that anymore and do that today because we've done it, and we've done it countless times. We did it recently with the release of Captain America Brave New World. Hell, a year and a half ago with the release of our 200th episode, we dedicated a whole series of podcasts specifically breaking down the challenges of Marvel. And so I don't think we're going to really be focusing on that today. Of course, like, those criticisms and those critiques will come out in the conversation, but I want to focus on the future. I want to focus on the what's next, what's going to happen moving forward, and how we feel about that stuff. And of course, we're going to reminisce and do some nostalgia stuff and think about the good old days. But as we are gearing up for this conversation, before we really move on and talk about some of the things happening right now, things that are circling Avengers Doomsday, some of our excitements and predictions and all those different things, the one question I want to start off with this conversation today is this. Who do you think specifically the MCU is for in 2025? Who is the audience at this day and age? Because I struggle trying to understand who they're going after. Is it new fans? Is it everybody? Is it the diehards? Are they trying to strike a balance between all those different audiences? But that's one thing that I've been sort of grappling with, just considering the vast amount of projects, the amount of output, all the things that we've seen. It felt like it was a much more clear answer in the Infinity Saga who they were going after. But now I'm not really sure. So what are your thoughts on that? Who do you think the MCU is for in 2025 at this point?
Yeah, I don't even think the MCU knows who the MCU is for at this point. To be honest, it has been muddied, and it has been very confusing to know what they're going for, who they're going for. Again, it used to feel like, of course, comic book fans, young adults, families, and often sometimes even, I'd say, people overseas. Like, there's been a lot of audiences I think they tried to cater to, but now I really don't know. It's hard for me to really know. I still think there is something within them that I think they are still catering to the comic book enthusiasts, for sure. I think part of that is even more so this phase than last phase, because everything has to be so weird. Everything has to be, what is even Doomsday? You know what I mean? What is Secret Wars even? Doctor Doom, a lot of people haven't really gotten to the weeds of who Doctor Doom is as a villain, even, in a lot of ways. So a lot of the territory I think they're going into is a more comic booky enthusiast core target, with, I think, a subset of, honestly, if I had to put it, I would say anybody who will watch. Anybody who will watch, because that's just what it feels like. they've put out any and everything, and it's so interesting because now even with the addition of Daredevil Born Again, it's like, okay, we're trying to get our dark rated R fans back. You know what I mean? We're trying to pull them kind of back into the fold, but and of course Deadpool Wolverine too, to a certain extent. But it still feels, I think, very broad and again very confusing at this point. But if I had to guess, I'd say comic book enthusiasts and anybody else who will watch after that.
And if you go after the comic book enthusiasts, I mean, is that not a mistake?
Yeah,
Because
they're gonna be pissed.
most people don't, well, not even that, most people don't read comics, and so they're not
Oh
even
yeah.
going to understand the deep lore, the deep
Yep.
cuts and connect, like they're not going to understand that stuff. So
Mhm.
is that in and of itself a mistake? And I guess in relation to that point, I think it's just they're trying to do it for everybody now.
Everybody, anybody who watch.
Just because, like, when you have as much stuff as they put out, you're really trying to cater to all different aspects, all different audiences, which I can partially understand. I mean, this became a global enterprise in
Mhm.
which pretty much everybody did watch it. That's how they accumulated as much success as they did. And so I think the thinking kind of makes sense. Like, well, we should probably make a project for this audience, or we should tap into this demographic, or we should think about having this type of hero be the front facing character of a new franchise. Whatever the conversations were, I think that they're sound and they make sense. We know that the execution is where it's all kind of falling apart with a lot of these different things. But I think in lieu of that, in lieu of trying to go after something that reaches everybody and appeals to as many people as possible, they've lost that central thread that they used to have. And so do you think that that's a problem for them, that they've lost that central narrative thread that we used to rely on in the Infinity Saga? Or are they completely aware of that and the MCU has just evolved into something different? Are they
Mhm.
conscious of the fact that, hey guys, we're no longer taking that type of approach where there is a central narrative? Now we have become so big, we have to have multiple narratives and multiple central threads being a through line through all of our different projects. And maybe you can just hop in and pick up from here and you don't have to watch the previous 7 or 8 movies to understand where they are at any particular point. What are your thoughts on that?
I think they had an idea where there's two things. One, I think they were very aware that post Infinity Saga, this thing has to be different. Like we did it. Everybody high five. We celebrated. In game did what it needed to do. We sunset the Infinity Saga, and that felt good to pretty much everyone. And I think moving forward, they said we do have to be different. But it came it, it it was so confusing at the time because I think they did want a through line. I think they did wanted one central storyline and everything to connect, kind of similar to Infinity Saga. But I think a lot of stuff got messed up when the Disney Plus stuff started to come into fruition, and now we have to make all these shows, and it's like, okay, how do we get this to fit in? Now our movies are confusing because we don't know necessarily where to go with those, so we're going to leave everything open ended. I think they wanted it to be a story, to be one cohesive story throughout. I think they failed at it. I do. But I think that was the intention originally. And I think they thought if they could cover their bases by making the end of a lot of these movies open ended or not connected, they could then come back later on and say, okay, now let's stitch it back together, which I think is what they're about to do right now. Like, I really think this is what Doomsday is about to be. Like, all right, we've been tearing up all this time. Let's reel it back in. Everybody, we got to put all these characters on screen at the same time. But I think they wanted it to still feel cohesive while at the same time being different. But I think they kind of succeeded at the different, but didn't necessarily succeed at making it one story. I think throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, maybe they did. There were certainly corporate mandates that would completely negate any desire to want to keep it cohesive and keep
Yeah.
it singular and make sure that there is a level of consistency in terms of that narrative through line. Once the Disney Plus aspect came into play and Bob Chapek is running things and he just wanted streaming show after streaming show after streaming show
Hmm.
and they upped their output, there's no way to maintain that level of a central narrative. But at the same time, I do wonder if they actually wanted that, because my follow-up question and thought would be, okay,
Mhm.
well, wouldn't an additional Avengers movie helped out with that if we had
Mhm.
gotten a movie that can be sort of an on-ramp to new fans to catch up where we are? Wouldn't that have been helpful as opposed to waiting what's going to amount to 7 years in between Avengers movies? Why didn't we get maybe a Fantastic Four film sooner, which is going to
Mhm.
connect to what they're going to do next? And
Mhm.
also, when you look at the totality of projects that they've released in this multiverse saga, how many have dealt with the multiverse? Maybe like 4, 5, like a couple of Loki seasons, Deadpool and Wolverine, sort of
Yeah.
adjacently, Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mhm.
That's about it. Like nothing else, and I guess Multiverse of Madness, of course, but those have been like
Mhm.
the ones that have dealt with it. No other project has really touched it, and so I do wonder if maybe they got a little too ambitious for their own good. Maybe they thought,
Mhm.
hey, they'll be able to follow this, because we have these central important things happening along the way, but it just became too much too fast, as we have talked
Yeah.
about numerous times on the show. But here we are, a little over a year away from the release of Avengers Doomsday. We finally are getting an Avengers movie. And it's happening. It feels like it's actually happening. We know the directors, we know the release date, we know that they, I think, have begun principal photography, or they're about to begin it this upcoming week. But they are shooting most of this movie in London, and as of right now, it's going to be shot back to back with Secret Wars as well. And a few weeks ago, we've been sitting on this and waiting to react to this. They finally revealed a good amount of the cast that's going to be a part of this movie in a very interesting manner. And before we talk about some of the cast members and get to the details of who we know will be a part of this film, I gotta ask you your thoughts about just the method in which they revealed this information, because it wasn't traditional. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't an announcement on their website. It wasn't, even just a short YouTube clip or video. They decided to have a 5.5 hour live stream where we followed directors' chairs being placed in front of a camera, revealing all of the actors that are going to be a part of this movie. Took a long time. They started it at like 9 a.m. It didn't finish until the close of business that day. But I guess theoretically it was a success from a number standpoint. They accumulated 275 million views across all their digital platforms. It's their biggest live
Mhm.
stream ever. And Avengers Doomsday on that particular day held the number one trending spot on Twitter for over 7 hours. And so a lot of people tuned in. A lot of people wanted to know like who's going to be a part of this cast. But yeah, what are your thoughts on just the method and the rollout of that reveal of these cast members for Avengers Doomsday?
Bruh, 5 hours. We did this for 5 hours.
Five and
I
a half.
was
That
five
extra
and a
30
that
is
half
important.
is
All of it
it's
counts.
it was so insane to me. Because on one hand, I'm like, okay, production is about to start. I understand you're trying to build some hype, around this thing, live stream. I just feel like we could have done it if this is the way you wanted to do it. If you weren't just going to do a normal press release, tell us everybody who's in it or something like that. It didn't have to be 5 hours. Like you could have easily moved the camera back faster to make this thing go. Like I
What was
just
it,
don't
like 12
understand.
minute intervals or something like
It
that in
was
between the reveals? It was a long
it
time.
was long, and I think that was my big thing. Like I'm not even mad at like, hey, let's be creative, let's do this thing, let's have a live stream, show some director's chairs, cool. But the length was crazy, and another reason that length was so insane is because every media person and outlet, they just kept announcing the next person over and over. I'm like, y'all, look, can we just wait to the end and then talk about this thing? Like every couple seconds, U.S. agent has been confirmed to be in. Like, I don't need to hear that U.S. agent. I don't need this one social media post that tells me U.S. agent is going to be in Doomsday, and then a next media post that tells me another character is going to be in Doomsday. And I just didn't need that happening throughout that whole entire course. It was like I almost had to turn social media off. I wanted to watch social media too to see reactions, but a part of me was like, we seeing the same thing from 10 different people every, like you said, like 12 minutes. It was a lot, man. So yeah, I don't mind the artistic approach and getting fan engagement in that approach, but the time is what did it for me, man. It took way too long. We did not have to go about it like that.
All right. So I have two hats I have to wear. From a professional standpoint, because I work in social and digital, this was brilliant. It was brilliant because of everything you just said. the fact that those constant repeat mentions from dozens of different outlets is going to happen for
Mhm.
the entire day. That's what you want. You want engagement, you want numbers, you want
Yeah.
length, you want to dominate the conversation for the entire time. Why take up 10 minutes with the press release when we can take the entire business day? Like, why settle for less? Like, we're the Avengers, we're Marvel, we can do that.
Mhm.
So I can't sit here and pretend that it's not a resounding success in that standpoint, because it is. It absolutely
Yeah.
is. Like, when you want to drum up excitement and you want to get the biggest numbers possible, length is a big part of that. One of the metrics that's just really important to many companies is retention and watch time. All that stuff like really, really matters. And so when you can say, yeah, we had 275 million views for digital platforms on a
Mhm.
single day, that's a ridiculous, astounding number for just one day. Personal me fucking hated it and thought it was just the most bumbleheaded thing that they could have done, because my God, we have no patience already as a generation for many different reasons. And I had no patience to sit here after I really wised up and realized what they were doing. I thought like, oh, this is gonna take a long time, and we have no idea how many
Mhm.
people they're announcing. Like, this could have gone until like 9 p.m. And so I thought it was just the worst method in which to do things. And it's interesting because it almost kind of reflects the state in which they are right now, in which Marvel is right now. They have to do something of this ilk, I think, to heat check to see whether or not people still give a fuck. And people
Mhm.
still do to a certain degree. Of course, people are going to tune in. We want to know who's going to be in this movie. But also
Right.
at the same time, that's not necessarily an indicator of how many people are going to show up and watch this film when it does drop. So I think that
Yeah.
that's just a tricky thing to play. You don't necessarily build up goodwill by doing something like this, creating a 5.5 hour live stream just to reveal some names on a director's chair. Not that many impressive names, albeit, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it's one of those corporate things, man. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's like they do what they have to do to get the numbers and to get the success on that standpoint. But as a fan who just watches it and just wants to know, this was ridiculous. Just a ridiculous waste of time and resources, where it could have been, a much more engaging and compelling 6-minute video where we just like went down the line and we reached the same objective, but we just took a lot less time. But it's neither here nor there at the end of the day. Let's talk about the cast. It's a lot of names. I'm going to run through them all real quick, just as a reminder. Chris Hemsworth, Anthony Mackie, Danny Ramirez, Paul Rudd, Simu Liu, Winston Duke, Letitia Wright, Tom Hiddleston, Tenoch Huerta, Florence Pugh, Sebastian Stan, Hannah John Kamen, David Harbour, Wyatt Russell, Louis Pullman, Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, Eben Moss-Baccarat, and then the big surprises that we just could not have predicted from the X-Men, the original X-Men: Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Rebecca Romaine, Alan Cumming, Kelsey Grammer, James Marsden, Channing Tatum, and then last but not least, the star of the movie himself, Robert Downey Jr., who's going to be playing Dr. Doom. So we now have a little bit more clarity about like the main makeup of this movie. We have the Thunderbolts, who are pretty much all going to be a part of this film. We have the Fantastic Four, who are going to be a part of this film. We kind of knew this stuff. They revealed it at Comic-Con about a year ago. We have some Avengers and Avengers adjacent related characters, people like Thor, Anthony Mackie's Captain America, Ant-Man's going to be back. We have the Wakandans here. Letitia Wright is Black Panther, and Tenoch Huerta, not a Wakandan, but Wakandan related, Namor,
Mhm.
I thought was a pretty big surprise. But really, kind of the one that drummed up a lot of excitement and a lot of questions was the announcement of these original X-Men coming back from that
Mhm.
OG trilogy from the early 2000s. Professor X and Magneto and Mystique and Nightcrawler and Beast, all these characters portrayed by their original actors from those films that were debuting in the early 21st century. In totality, man, how do you feel about this cast so far? 27 names announced from many
Sheesh.
different corners of the MCU. What do you feel about them? Are you excited? Do you think that this is a good cast? Well, what are your thoughts on the reveal here?
Honestly, most of this was expected. A lot of this isn't a huge surprise to me. Again, they didn't start in the chair situation in the video. They didn't start announcing a lot of the X-Men until the end. What I was excited for, in particular, was Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen again. I kind of knew that Kelsey Grammer. I mean, we've seen him already, so it's like, yeah, of course, Kelsey Grammer probably needs to be in the movie. But and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we have all these characters. how do they fit into the narrative, and how was this whole thing going to work? But I like everybody here. I'm glad everybody is here. It still does feel weird without Iron Man and Cap, and especially a lot of those major, again, MCU stars who are missing, who again could still be in the film. But they just haven't announced them or are saving them as a surprise or whatever. But what they laid out to us, again, I think all of it makes sense. It's funny seeing just like the Thunderbolts, and the movie hasn't come out yet, and so we're like, oh yeah, we know exactly who's not going to die in that movie. That's cool. But a lot of it, again, was expected and I seen coming. We just have to see how they use them in the actual narrative. I say, like you said, Tenoch Huerta was a little bit of surprise. And bro, I'm really interested to see how Loki fits into this whole thing, and how Loki works here. That's like the one of those ones on the list. I'm like, huh, what are they gonna do with him? But yeah, I like it, man. I think it's really cool what they got going. Still a lot of questions, but I think they're headed in somewhat the right direction.
For the reveal and what they did and for what we got was not worth it. I'm just gonna say that. This is the B team.
I
This is
agree.
not the All-Stars. Original X-Men aside, the rest of the people here, these are the bench warmers. All people that I pretty much knew were going to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Again, a year ago at Comic-Con, Kevin Feige said, hey guys, the Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four will be in the next Avengers movie. Okay, those were all checked off for. We had some questions about maybe some other people like Chris Hemsworth. What's his status? What's the status of Letitia Wright? Some people that we wondered about,
Mm-hmm.
but in all likelihood, we're going to be here and be a part of this film. So not a ton of surprises. The biggest one was Tenoch Huerta Mejia, just because didn't really know what the direction and the desire for Namor as a character, like what they were going to do. But I
Mm-hmm.
do like him being a part of this. But yeah, they alluded to the fact that there are more to come, which I think people immediately started asking after we got the reveal of these names, like, oh well, is this everybody? Are there more to come? And they've made no bones about it. Like there are more people to come. Robert Downey Jr. teased it on Instagram, and Kevin Feige confirmed it at CinemaCon. They have not announced everybody, and we're gonna get into that more so in a bit here. But as a follow up, now knowing the names of
Mm-hmm.
people that'll be a part of this movie, there's a few things that I want to ask. Firstly, who's the emotional core of this movie? Like who is that person's point of view that we're following throughout this story? Because this is a lot of characters. There's 27 names here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not mistaken, I went back and counted for Infinity War. I think if you include the villains and you include the Avengers and the side characters, it might have been somewhere around 35 or 36 characters.
Yeah.
And so we are very close to that level of an ensemble here. But when you just look at everybody and considering the history of the films up until this point, do you
Mm-hmm.
have any thoughts or suspect who might be the emotional core and the through line? Because it has to be somebody, just from a story
Yeah.
perspective. That's how a movie has to be told. We'll bounce around, I'm sure, but there has to be at least one, two, three characters where it's like emotionally we're putting a lot of the baggage on them to kind of carry the beats of the film.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to figure out because I think there's a couple approaches that they can take. One of them, I think, could honestly, if I'm just thinking about this, it could be Pedro Pascal's Reed Richards. Reed Richards could possibly be the emotional through line of this film because his relationship and Doctor Doom's relationship is very important, I think, to the things that we're going to see go down. Fantastic Four will have happened by then. We have at that point hopefully built some emotional resonance with the Fantastic Four and those characters. Maybe it makes sense for it to be Pedro Pascal. Another form of mine where we're like, new Avengers, right? Is there a world where Anthony Mackie makes sense as the emotional through line as Captain America in this film? I can't say yes. I
I'd
don't
say
think.
no after
I'd
Brave
say
New
no.
World. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say no. That doesn't feel correct. And so part of me honestly feels like we could take one more different approach in that might including honestly the emotional beat is Robert Downey Jr. himself as Doctor Doom.
That's what I
And
was gonna say.
I really think that's the answer. I really think that's the smart way forward. The person we've been with the whole time, the person who started the MCU. Why not now bring down all of our favorite characters with the same person that you love. Now we're gonna teach you how to hate him, but from his emotional standpoint that he's going through. I really think that's it, man.
It's kind of running the Infinity War playbook where Thanos was primarily the main
Mm-hmm.
protagonist of that movie. He
Yeah,
served two roles. He was the antagonist to the Avengers, of course, but emotionally, the through line of that film is his arc, his
yeah.
relationship to Gamora, his upbringing of her, the weight and the burden that he carried, knowing what he knew about the state of the universe, whatever the case may be. A lot of that was thrown on his shoulders, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
that just has to be the case here, and that's going to be tough for people considering Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man for 12 years. And now we're going to switch perspectives and switch who he is and our understanding of him. And there's still questions
Mm-hmm.
about him. Is it a Tony Stark variant? We just don't know a lot of that information yet, but it has to be him because if you look at the mainstays outside of a Chris Hemsworth, outside of a Loki, not a lot of these characters have even built up the
Mm-hmm.
emotional connection with audiences to sustain that type of relationship. We may like Thunderbolts, we may like Fantastic Four, but those are
Mm-hmm.
still just one entry and introductory entries for a lot of those characters that won't necessarily set them up to be like, hey, you're the focal point of this movie moving forward. One exception is Reed, that could make sense because of those connections to Doctor Doom, but I have to really be behind Pedro Pascal at the end of that movie for it
Right.
to work. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that'll be the case. We don't know yet. But it's a tricky conundrum in the way that the Russos have spoken about these two movies and sort of touting them as a new beginning as opposed to an ending is also interesting because I think
Mm-hmm.
that might relate to this whole X-Men thing. I mean,
Yeah.
the reveal of these characters that was a shock to me. That
Mm-hmm.
was a big surprise. I just didn't anticipate Patrick Stewart once again was going to be coming back. I mean, the man has been killed 3 fucking times on screen.
Man,
Like,
I know
my
he's sick of it.
goodness,
I know
he's
he's sick
coming
of it.
back again. Ian McKellen, a big surprise. He's not been Magneto
Mm-hmm.
in quite some time. Rebecca Romaine as Mystique.
Yeah,
Like a lot of these
crazy.
characters, Alan Cumming, we haven't seen them since the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty significant change of things, and so any early thoughts on their inclusion here, their connection, the possible ramifications of having these X-Men here, and also some of the ones that are missing? Because it's not everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there's technically a lot more. There's no Halle Berry here as Storm. There's technically no Hugh Jackman, no Ryan Reynolds. Do you anticipate that there's also going to be more? And also, what do you think the possible connection is here for these characters to come into the story?
Will there be more X-Men first and foremost? Yeah, there will. Man, there's been Halle Berry all been asking people have asking Halle Berry all type of questions like, "Are you gonna be in the movie, Halle Berry?" She's like, "No, I'm not gonna be in it." I'm like, "We'll see if you're not gonna be in it." But I really do. I know there's gonna be more X-Men, and I really it's hard for me to know. I think the purpose they'll serve. I have a theory why they're here that I'll talk about later while they're here. But I think they'll be important with potentially opening that door to mutantdom. Like you said, if the Russos are saying this is a new beginning, maybe this is, we kind of talk about what's after the multiverse saga. And a lot of us are like, oh, it's going to be the mutant saga. We're like, how do we get there? And maybe this is like a real foot in the door. Like Deadpool Wolverine wasn't really a foot in the door. Whatchamacallit, Kamala Khan with the X-Men music in the back saying mutant. That wasn't really anything, not really a foot in the door, but maybe including these X-Men here and establishing a world where mutants exist is the real legit. This is how we get here. I don't think these will be our characters moving forward per se in terms of what a mutant saga is, but I do think, hey, let's get a bunch of mutants on screen, and maybe this can the ramifications of this is now we have a world where mutants exist, and again potentially create that connection we need in the MCU to get mutants started kind of a little bit later on down the line, I think. But this is like how it's I think this is how they introduce it. But man, I don't know what I don't know what else beyond getting butts and seats too is the dang reason for these X-Men, I think, to be in this movie. Because as you said, a lot of these are the B characters. And if you're not here for Robert Downey Jr. as Doom, who else are you really here for? If if you're being honest, like you're not going to be here for I don't know, Paul Rudd. Everybody's not here for Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. You know what I'm saying? But I think a lot of people will pull up to see some of their favorite old X-Men characters that haven't been here, and so I'm hoping they actually use them for a good reason. But knowing them, who knows? I don't think I'm not sure they will.
Are they just here to die? Are they just here to be disposed of and just killed off quickly to just showcase Doom's power?
That's what I hope.
You hope
That is,
that that's what you
yeah.
want to see.
I
Why?
want to see them get waxed.
Wow.
I love the idea. Bro, all these people, we've seen them. They've been here. We have this whole old X-Men regime. Maybe not every single one, but one of the things that Doom, I need Doom to be a threat, and I think it was really cool with them opening Thanos saying like, "Look, I kill people. I'm sorry. Like y'all are going to take an L very early in the beginning. It's going to be an emotional L. It's going to suck for you. I kind of like the idea of Doctor Doom doing that for us as a people, and to get us to hate Doctor Doom and Robert Downey Jr. One thing he can do is kill off the X-Men that we love so much that we probably came to see this movie. It actually reminds me like when a lot of the girls went to go see Stump the Yard for Chris Brown and he died in the first 5 minutes. Give me that. Give me that with the X-Men. Like, give me Doctor Doom waxing these mutants early. As much as I love him, we've had so many X-Men send-offs, man. Oh my god, I'm so tired of X-Men send-offs. But like, it also feels like potentially maybe the right thing to do for me.
I disagree. I don't want that to happen. I don't need these characters to be the disposable playthings for Doom for him to be considered a worthy threat. Because, first of all, outside of the X-Men, none of these other characters, except Thor and Loki, have proven to me that they're even worthy to step up to Doom to begin with. And so I'm automatically on Doom's side. He's fucking shit up regardless. Like, there's nobody on this roster that is standing toe-to-toe with him and actually providing as a formidable force. And secondly, the idea that they're just going to be brought in to be killed off immediately, I just feel like it's a massive waste of time and effort. Like, yes, they've had a million send-offs, and yes, we've been doing this for 25 years, but at the end of the day, if a similar thing would have happened to, for example, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man No Way Home, people would have been pissed at that. Like, why did you bring them in just to kill them off if you're going to just dispatch of them so quickly? They actually had emotional resonance and meaning to the story and to the growth of Tom Holland's Spider-Man. These X-Men could serve a similar function and purpose for, I don't know if it's the new X-Men or these Avengers, whoever it is, they could serve a very meaningful purpose. Whether or not they die, that's neither here nor there. Like, they can die and I'll be fine with that, but don't bring them in and kill them off in the opening 10 minutes of the movie just to show how powerful Doom is. Like, for fuck's sake, if you can't find another meaningful way to do that, then like, what are we really doing? Like, you have to bring out some old retired characters just to show like, yeah, Doom's a threat? Like, no, that's ridiculous. And we've already run that playbook. We've done that with Thanos. Thanos killed Loki and the rest of the Asgardians in the first 10 minutes. Like, you guys did that. Show me a new creative way to show why Doom is such a threat, to why he's, the really the most iconic villain that we've had. As it relates to X-Men too, like, I wonder, like, is this really a foot in the door? Like, you brought up a lot of good points about what they did with Ms. Marvel, that tease, and Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, they've given us kind of the start and stop treatment for the introduction of X-Men and mutants in the MCU. Have we dampened the impact of what that could even mean anymore because we've had so many start and stops? Like, whenever they decide to make an X-Men movie, which by God, it's been a long time since they acquired those rights. It's like, what are we really waiting for? With all of these teases and these characters coming back, like Patrick Stewart is coming back again. Have we dampened the impact of what that can even mean because we continue to rely on the legacy characters, on the characters that did work for a long time, which, by the way, I think there's a reason for that. Like, these are iconic characters for a reason, but what is the impact and the success of a potential X-Men introduction even going to look like when we've had so many different interpretations already? Even the animated show, X-Men 97, has given us a taste of what that can look like. Does it even carry the same emotional weight as it may have used to maybe like 4 or 5 years ago when we really didn't have a lot of mutant things happening within the MCU?
Yeah, again, maybe not as much. Part of it is kind of surrounding Patrick Stewart showing up and getting killed pretty quickly here, but part of me also likes the idea of maybe them using the X-Men to build up these teams that were like they don't stand a chance against Doom, and maybe there are some ways in which they're the other Avengers or Thunderbolts or whoever are brought up a pedestal because of their interaction with the X-Men, whatever that means. Whether they fight them or I don't know, maybe they because I think maybe part of this is maybe it isn't everybody against Doom in the beginning, right? Like X-Men versus Avengers has been talked about, but not as a whole movie. Maybe it's just a small concept that has to partake, that in this film, that has to happen in this film for us to get to the next through line or the next thing. Maybe there's something there. Maybe they are in conversation, in I don't know, trying to figure out something, but it does feel like you hopefully they can do something with them that's meaningful. That is the hope. I think as well. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see.
I will say a year ago when we did these Comic-Con predictions about the announcements, I said on this show that I thought one of the announcements that they were going to make was that Avengers Doomsday, which we didn't know the title at the time, was going to become Avengers versus X-Men. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that that's what this movie is at this point, but it feels like that might happen, that this could secretly just be an Avengers versus X-Men movie. Yeah. And Doom is orchestrating and pulling the strings. Do you want to see that? Do you want to see these X-Men, like this version of the team, and maybe a few more if they decide to add some more, versus whoever the Avengers are, which I still can't tell. I still can't. I don't know who the Avengers are. Like, it's Falcon and Cap and Shang-Chi and Ant-Man. Not a very formidable Avengers team at this point. Thor adds a lot, of course, but like, if we do get a better representation of like who are going to be the Avengers, yeah, how likely is that going to be a through line or a potential plot thread that happens in the film?
I still think it's pretty likely, even with again the Avengers that we might think is a thing. But I think what does make it hard is knowing or not knowing what the Avengers team looks like. That really is like the main thing that's holding me back, because if I could say, hey, we know Professor X and specifically James Martin as Cyclops is leading this team of X-Men, cool. We know what that team looks like. If they were to happen to go toe to toe with whatever the Avengers are, cool. But who's gonna lead the Avengers? We know it's hopefully it's Cap, like, or we want it to be Cap, or they want it to be Cap. But who's surrounding him? If I see Cap and Falcon and Ant-Man running towards these X-Men that we know and love, there's just no way. It doesn't make any sense. We're not even sure. And again, this is adjacent, but that Letitia Wright is going to pull up as Black Panther for real. Like, we don't even know if she's going to pull up and help them in totality. We're not even sure. We don't know we don't know what's happening in the Avengers side. So I like it as an idea, Avengers versus X-Men, again, being a plot point in this movie and that being part of it. I would love that, but who is it? And what does that mean? It has to feel right still. It still has to you still got to give me formidable foe against formidable foe. Like, you still got to give me some meat and potatoes there to make it feel good. That's what Civil War was. Civil War was like, oh, are you Team Cap or Iron Man? And everybody picking different teams because both teams they felt cool and they felt kind of even. If you really break it down, I'm sure there's some nerdy answers to it, but it felt even that people were talking about it, which team you're on. And I can't, everybody's just going to be Team X-Men. It's just like, oh, no question, we're Team X-Men in this thing. So I think we need a little bit more from the Avenger side to get us to buy into, I think, that battle, if that is a thing.
I think there's a lot we don't know yet about cast and movie and story. Mm-hmm. So my hope is that, yes, there will be more Avengers, more Marvel MCU specific characters that can aid in that. But I'm sticking by my prediction. Like, the movie won't be called Avengers versus X-Men, but for fuck's sake, we go to these movies to also see the heroes fight each other. Yep. And if you have an opportunity, probably your only opportunity, to have legacy X-Men characters face off against this new crop, this new generation of Avengers and MCU characters, then you do it. You don't let this opportunity pass by. I said this all a year ago, and here it is coming to pass. But there were a lot of people they didn't announce, a lot of names that we're still speculating about. I'm going to just run down a list of people that have not been announced to be a part of this movie. And this is not even all encompassing, but I think that these represent the major omissions from this casting announcement. Chris Evans as Captain America, Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter, Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, Denai Guerrero as Okoye, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Charlie Cox as Daredevil, Benedict Wong as Wong, Amon Vellani as Ms. Marvel, Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, Tom Holland Spider-Man, Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight, Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, Evangeline Lilly as the Wasp, Paul Bettany as the Vision, Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk, Don Cheadle, War Machine, Brie Larson, Captain Marvel, Olga Kurylenko, Taskmaster. She's going to die in Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
Watch.
she did.
Dominic Thorne as Ironheart, Samuel L. Jackson's Nick Fury, Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch. She says she's not doing the movies. Dakota Johnson as Madam Web. Did I write that? I guess I did. Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez, Tiana Paris, Monica Rambeau, and of course Doctor Strange himself, Benedict Cumberbatch. So we can speculate all day long. We actually have an exercise and an activity we're going to do in terms of like who else might be a part of this movie, possible speculation. But like, who's the most surprising omission? Like, if you had to pick a name or two that you thought might have been a part of this initial announcement, who out of this list that was left off surprised you the most to not hear like, oh, they are immediately confirming the presence of this actor and this character in this film?
Spider-Man. For sure. And then honestly, if I had to add one more name, probably Mark Ruffalo, honestly. Because what? Where the hell's the Hulk? What are we doing?
I think we're always asking that about
What are we doing?
Ruffalo's Hulk. What is he doing and where is he at?
It doesn't make any sense to me, man. This is such an important, beloved character. He's a genius.
He's making babies, is what he's doing.
Y'all, really though. Yeah, but it's just crazy not to hear that Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk is going to be in this film. He feels such like so important to this whole thing. And we talk about these legacy. It's funny. The MCU was always like the big three, and then the Hulk was like right there, and we're like, hello, the Incredible Hulk. What are we talking about? But yeah, and one more for real. Tiana Paris, Monica Rambeau didn't make any sense to me because I'm like, ain't that where Kelsey Grammer at? But Kelsey Grammer got okay, whatever. But yeah, that was the other like, where's Tiana Paris?
Yeah, she's 1000% in the movie.
For sure.
I don't know why they didn't announce her. But it feels there's something with the Marvel's characters all together. Like no Amon Vellani, no Brie Larson, and no Tiana Paris. Yeah. Not even sure Brie Larson wants to do this anymore, especially after the last movie. Like it just didn't do well at all. So I don't even know what their role and their function is. But I feel like Tiana Paris is a 1000% shoe in. But for whatever reason. Maybe there are story purposes that they just withheld her reveal as a part of this cast. Cumberbatch is feels strange. That feels like an omission. He did have comments recently where he said he's not as much of a factor in this movie as he will be in Secret Wars. And so maybe he has a smaller role. And so there was not necessarily a need to announce him as a part of this initial lineup. Spider-Man makes sense that they, well, it doesn't make sense, actually. I agree with you that's like a big surprise to not announce him as a part of this movie. Was there anybody that like out and right, you were just like, yeah, there's no way they're going to be in this movie? Like, it's not a surprise that they didn't announce them because I have no expectation that they're even going to pop up and have an appearance in this film.
Man, probably... I don't know, because a lot of people still feel like they could show up. Like anything could kind of happen, and that person could show up. I would say Moon Knight's not going to be there.
Probably not.
Moon Knight's not going to be there. That was one of those ones I was like, nah. And it's so interesting because that character still always feels like he's on the table. Like they never sunset Moon Knight as like not being a thing. It's still concepts about Moon Knight happening and all these other things, but it never feels like Isaac is going to show up as Moon Knight in this thing. So yeah, that was one. Daredevil won't be there. We might see Peggy.
That could happen. Yeah, I mean, she's been a mainstay.
If we get Cap back, I feel like you got to see Peggy. It's like, if we get Cap back, you got to see Peggy. But yeah, I think those are some of the obvious ones. I think. Also, I don't think we're gonna see War Machine.
Really? You don't know?
Yeah,
no Don Cheadle.
Sure. I think that I want him to be in the movie, but I don't know, man. They've been just so weird with that character recently that I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, they butchered him. He kind of feels like he has to be there, though. Even though there's a lot of they convoluted the fuck out of his story at this point, but the connections to Cap, the connections to Nick Fury and Sam Jackson. I feel like Samuel Jackson's going to find his way in this movie. He always does.
Yeah, I feel like that
It
too.
feels like that he'll work his way in here. Also, Chris Pratt, Star Lord. Interesting that he wasn't announced, nor any other
Yeah.
Guardians adjacent
Hmm.
related characters were not announced as well. There might be something to that story, but many questions about who's left and who's to still be revealed. But 27 names is a lot. I just do wonder, who's left on the table that they're going to have be a part of this movie, because there was the report, that came out a few months ago. We talked about it on the show that Chris Evans apparently signed on to return in this film. We just don't know who he's playing. We don't know if it's going to be Cap or if it's going to be Nomad or something. I just totally unsure about what that might entail for his character in returning. But many questions about this film as we continue to build up the excitement and the hype train towards the release of it. But want to jump into an exercise here, a fun little activity that's related to Avengers Doomsday, and do some power rankings and talk about who are going to be the real MVPs for this movie by the time it comes out. Who are going to be the most impactful, the most important characters to the story of Avengers Doomsday, as opposed to maybe some of the other characters who they're present, they're along for the ride, but they might not have as much of an influence on the final story once we see it. So what we're going to do here is we're each going to build our own score sheet where we power rank the top 5 most important characters to Avengers Doomsday. So this is going to create a structured, flexible way to rank the characters based on the potential impact that they will have in the movie. It's a mix of their power levels, the importance to the story, their leadership capabilities, potential wild card and chaos factors, things that we just can't predict. And then once we allot points to each of those categories, we'll then base the total points accumulated from the categories, which would ultimately give us our respective top 5. An important thing to note here is that we have confirmed characters, but as I mentioned, there are also unconfirmed characters. Both are in contention. So even though somebody has possibly not been confirmed to be a part of the cast just yet, they could show up on our power rankings list. And so, just to go over it once again, here are the 5 different categories that we're going to be measuring each individual character on. First and foremost, power level. That's just the raw physical prowess of an individual character, their intellectual power, their physical power, potentially magical power if they have that tool in their toolbox. The next category, strategic value, their ability to lead and outthink their enemies and solve what we think are going to be massive multiversal problems. The next category is narrative importance. How central are they to the core plot of the movie? Fourth category is wild card factor, the potential for unexpected betrayals, twists and turns, maybe some dimension breaking moments, anything on the table for a wild card factor. And then the last category is fan investment, the hype, the history, the emotional weight and connection that the character brings to this particular film, and our relationship as fans to that character. So each character is going to get scored across those 5 categories. We're using a 1 to 10 point scale, 10 being the highest, and basically go through each character that we think will be the most important to the story of Avengers Doomsday. I think I covered everything. I think I got everything wrapped up there. Any questions before we dive in and unpack the most important characters to Doomsday?
I don't think so. I'm ready to go.
All right, let's do it. We're gonna do it in I guess it's ascending order. So we're gonna start at 5 and then work our way up to 1. So on your roster, man, who do you want to talk about first? Who was your 5th most important character to Avengers Doomsday?
I actually have, and this might be a surprising answer, maybe not actually, but I have Shuri's Black Panther as an important character to Doomsday. She is, we know she's incredibly strong. She's literally a Black Panther, heart-shaped herb, all of that stuff. But narratively, if you think about just the Avengers as a team, Wakanda has served outside of New York, has served as a base for the Avengers in what that means. And we haven't, again, I was talking about it earlier. We're not even sure that Shuri will even feel like a complete Avenger, or will be for sure part of that team in totality, at least the way that T'Challa felt at that time. But I think she'll adopt those. She's already adopted those qualities and that idea, and that she'll be a central part in this entire thing, because a lot of this entire plot line of Doctor Doom, it's going to get really sciencey. There's going to be some mumbo jumbo. We've already talked about incursions and all these other things. And I think Shuri is one of the characters that we have now that's on the ground that can, one, help the users explain the users the characters, too much work, the characters explain what's happening, and also, yeah, and also get the audience to be like, oh, that's what's going on, and this is how this thing works. I really think Wakanda will be important in the story narratively. But yeah, I think, you know, she makes sense. And yeah, that she'll get it done.
What are you ranking her in all the categories? What's
Pa-
the numbers?
power power. I'm gonna give her a 7 in power, a 7 in power. This is MCU, people are crazy. Strategic, a 10, one of the best minds we have, for sure, again, which I think is going to be really important to the story. Narrative, I'm gonna give it an 8. I really do think, again, Wakanda is just one of those places you can't, and again, with her mind, you have to take account the wild card factor. Maybe like a 6 in terms of wild card. I'm really not 100% sure how I feel about her in that category. Fan investment, maybe a 7. I think a lot of people care about her, but maybe just not as much as T'Challa. But very good movie, I think, and people will resonate with her,
Okay.
for sure.
What's that total out of the
Oh,
50?
what's crazy is I didn't even count it up. Let me count it up real quick. Let me count it real quick.
Um,
I have the numbers, but I didn't.
in the
I didn't count.
meantime, my fifth most important is going to be Sentry.
Mm-hmm.
To the importance of the film, I'm giving his power level of 10. I mean, we haven't seen him yet, but he's easily a top tier character. He has
Yeah.
superhuman strength and flight and technically molecular manipulation, which I think they're going to play with a lot in Thunderbolts, energy
Mm-hmm.
blast, all sorts of crazy stuff. Narrative importance, actually, first strategic value. I'm gonna give Sentry a 6. I don't necessarily see him as a leader, but he's
Mm-hmm.
a weapon. He's a very very formidable weapon, and he can be useful if controlled by probably another force or entity. But because he has like a very unstable grip on reality, I just can't see him being all that important as it relates to strategic value. Narratively, I'm gonna give him an 8, because I think that there might be some valuable things that they can lean into with the story between his connections with the Void,
Mm-hmm.
and I partially feel like that they're gonna have him stand in as Molecule Man for the story. If you know what they do in Secret Wars and just the importance of that character to Secret Wars, I feel
Yeah.
like Sentry's gonna play that role instead. So I think he's gonna be very very important, and that's why they're introducing him in Thunderbolts. Wild card, he's a 10. He's unpredictable to the core. You just can never gauge like what's going to happen with him. He's very very strong,
Yeah.
and the whole Sentry versus Void conversation presents major opportunities for shakeups and unpredictable moments. And then fan investment, I'm gonna go 6, just because like he's not really known yet. He's not known
Yeah.
by casual fans. Comic readers might be hyped, but we haven't really seen his massive grand introduction in the story of Thunderbolts yet. So not a ton there, but that'll land him again in the 5th spot. Total score 40 out of 50. So I think
Nice.
he will play an important role. Just, of course, like on the pecking order of things, not at the top of the list.
Yeah, that's a really good pick, man. Sentry's, again, so important, so cool, but definitely though very strong character, with a lot of potential. MCU finally got its Superman, you know, in Sentry.
Hopefully they
Hopefully,
do. If they present him
hopefully.
correctly.
Yeah, and I think it's a really good pick, man. Really cool. Also, very comic booky pick. Sentry's another one of those, like, a lot of people don't know who he is, but they will. Sentry's really cool, man. Uh, and Shuri ended up being 38
38 out
points
of 50. Okay.
out
Okay.
of 50 is where she ended up being.
Cool. Who's next on your list? Number 4.
Number 4 on my list, I have Shang-Chi is number 4 on my list.
Okay.
Yeah, power. I have at an 8. The boy got the 10 rings. He's a really formidable foe to a lot of these, to a lot of the threats that he's going to face. And so yeah, I think he's going to be really cool to watch and see his power. I think on a even a different scale that didn't include him in the movie. I think, you know, an Avengers level threat. It would be cool to watch him. Strategic, maybe not so much. I think, you know, he's a smart guy, but he's still learning a ton. Shang-Chi still is a new hero, even though he's been tasked to do a lot. He's still really new. He's not necessarily a leader or anything. So I'm gonna kind of go with I'm gonna go with a 6 there. Narrative, I think he's super important. I really do. I'm gonna go with an 8. I think they'll do a lot with him in terms of the story. Wild card, maybe like another 6. I don't think he's super unpredictable. I think I think I think we know who he is and his capabilities and what he can do. And he's pretty nice guy. Shang-Chi's a pretty nice guy. Like, I don't think anything crazy will happen. And fan investment, I'm gonna go with an 8. I think we really like Shang-Chi. I think we resonate with him. I think we like him. And that total comes to a 36 out of 50.
To go back to narrative, I mean, what role do you think narratively he could play in the film that would make him important to the story?
Yeah, I think there's some of what is it called? I always forget what it's called, but the origin of the 10 rings and all of that stuff and where that comes from. I don't think they'll play off of that stuff, but what I think they will play off of is one, his role in as a protector of the realms. And we know a lot of realms are about to come into play when it comes to what Doom has going on. And I think Shang-Chi is going to have one of those different spiritual type realm things that we haven't necessarily talked about in the other worlds of Marvel yet. Stuff dealing with dragons and all that other stuff. I think he'll have to understand and helm some of that stuff. So I think that's why he'll be important. He'll be important narratively.
And one of those like lingering post-credit scenes from Shang-Chi was the mystical origins of the Ten Rings. We saw Wong and Captain Marvel sort of toying with them, and it felt like that was going somewhere. And maybe that perhaps does play sort of a piece in the puzzle in terms of like his power or in relation to multiversal stuff. That'll be interesting. What was the score on that? The final score for Shang-Chi?
36.
36.
15. Mm-hmm.
So he should be 5 because you have Shuri with 38 out of 50. So you should,
Yeah, that's
those would
because
flip.
I forgot to add up Shuri. So I'm switching them. Shang-Chi should be 5. You are so right.
Moving on, number 4 for me is Mr. Fantastic. I think in terms of power level, giving him a 7, you know, he's physically stretchy, but he's not really that
Mm-hmm.
strong. His real power is
Yeah.
the intellectual power. Therefore, strategic value, he gets a 10 out of me. He's one of the smartest minds in all of
Yep.
Marvel. He's going to be one of the smartest minds in the MCU. He's going to be very, very likely a key player in solving or creating, potentially being responsible for whatever the multiversal crisis will be in the film. Narrative importance, I think it's a 9. Just that connection between him and Doctor Doom. They are arch enemies of each other, and I think Reed he has to be a central character to what Doom's story is going to be in the film. Wild card, I'm gonna go an 8. He's not chaotic and unpredictable, but I'm thinking about possible variants and how that might play a role. That could bring some really, really wild twists in the movie because Reed is kind of susceptible to being sort of iterated upon numerous times. We know that there's many, many different versions of Reed. The Council of Reeds could be a thing. So I'll go an 8 on the wild card. And fan investment, I'm gonna say a 7. We just haven't seen this version yet, but people love Pedro Pascal. This is going to be a very interesting litmus test to see Pedro Pascal's ability to be a movie star, but then also the ability to lead a major franchise on the theatrical side of things. But you know, I think with this build up to Secret Wars, what we're going to see in Fantastic Four, Doomsday, all that stuff, I think that can change fast and ultimately, you know, up his score. But I'm gonna give him a 7 right now. So his total 41 out of 50 for what I think he's going to mean to this movie. So he'll be at 4 for me. Sentry will be at number 5. But you know, Reed, I think you have to use that guy and that character to the full capabilities in which you can because of just that connection to Doctor Doom at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Everything you said is spot on. Mr. Fantastic actually is my third spot. And again, he has to be integral to this story, and he's one of those characters that I think, if done right, will be a future quote unquote leader of the MCU. And you know, A lot of our numbers are also similar here. Power, I have as a 7. Strategic, I also have as a 7. Like you said, one of the greatest minds. Narrative, I also have a 9. We were really spot on, I think, in that way. Wild card, I had him at a 7. Just a little lower because, and the only reason it's that low is I have a hard time believing what Marvel is going to do with him this early. Because Reed Richards does a lot of crazy stuff. There's a lot of crazy things that goes on with Reed Richards, I think, in a lot of these storylines. But I just have a hard time thinking they're going to do it this early. Like I think they're going to want to ground him in a lot of ways. So that's why it's a 7. But 7 is still like a lot of potential. You know what I mean? For him to do some crazy stuff. Like, are they going to include Nathan Richards? Are they going to include any of that bonkers stuff that Reed Richards goes through? Are they gonna, like, again? I think that's very plausible in a lot of those things. And then fan investment at, surprisingly, I had it at an 8. And it's only because it's Pedro Pascal. Honestly, I think people like him, or I don't even know if everybody, but people are so used to seeing him, and my hope is that after Fantastic Four, people are really bought into this character. That's just my hope, and I hope that's the hope for me too. Like I'm like, please get us to buy him Miss Fantastic because I think he's that important. And that brings my total to 41 as well for Mr. Fantastic.
I think conversely though, there's a bit of oversaturation happening with Pedro.
I agree.
He's in 5 movies this year already.
Crazy.
Which is pretty crazy. Last of Us is about to premiere, so they do run the risk of having an actor that people do like generally, but we see him in so many other things, and so I think what needs to happen for his character is that we need to see a different interpretation of Reed. We need to see him like really bring something new to the character, not feel like we're watching Joel from The Last of Us or not watching, Mando from Mandalorian. Like we need to really see a different side of Pedro, I think, in this movie.
For sure.
He's capable. He's definitely capable of that. So I'm just hoping that that's the case. Next on my list, third most important character, Thor. I'm picking Thor. His total score at this is 43 out of 50. I'm going to go through each category. Power level is a 10. He's a god. He's one of the physically strongest characters in the MCU. No surprise there. Strategically, I'm going to say 8. He's not the most tactical strategic mind, but at the end of the day, he's been through crazy shit. Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame. He's seen a lot of multiversal threats. He has the experience. Narrative importance, 9. He's an OG Avenger. I think his presence connects the past and the present and the future phases. So he's likely going to be somewhat of a mentor and maybe even a leader in battle. Wild card, 6. He's not that unpredictable at this point. We kind of know the character of Thor. He's generally on the straight and narrow these days, but again, multiversal things could change that. There is like multiversal angles that they could take in potential battle world, secret war situations that I'm interested to see whether or not they explore. And then lastly, fan investment, 10. Like people love Thor, people love Chris Hemsworth. His return is going to be very anticipated and eagerly, I think, anticipated from people because after Love and Thunder, that wasn't a great outing for him and for the character, but people want to see what he's going to bring to the Avengers table. So going to give him a 43 out of 50 in terms of importance. I think that OG power, him being around all these years, still carries a lot of weight and meaning for what the story is going to be.
Yeah, we're copy paste again here. I have Thor in my number 2 spot. He's one of the anchors that we have in this movie. You talked about a lot of it is the B team. Thor's one of those people who is not, if he's around and if they find a way to bring him back, he's not the B team. He is him. He is Thor, one of the few of the big 3, the last of the big 3 that we have left. And I think almost everything you said makes sense, man. Power's a 10. I have a strategic a little bit lower. I think they'll be able to use him, but for him himself, I have his strategy at a 7. And then I have his narrative also at a 9. His wild card I have at a 7. We'll see we'll see what happens there. And then fan investment, I got another 10, and that brings the total for me to I think 42. Overall.
Next up on my list, Spider-Man. I think he's not been announced at this point, but I just can't see a world in which he's not in this film. He's become so integral to the MCU at this point. So what's going to happen in Brand New Day feels like it might inform these two movies, Secret Wars and Doomsday, and I'm anticipating that's going to be the case. And look, they got to do everything that they can to keep Spider-Man as a character in the MCU at this point, because he is just like one of the more important, one of the most beloved. Like he just checks all those boxes.
Hmm.
From a power level standpoint, I'm going to give him an 8. Incredibly strong, agility, spidey sense, tech smart, web stuff. Like he can hold his own. We can see that very much so in the previous films. Strategic value, I'm also say an 8. He's gotten up there in experience, but he's still not like the most tactile leader that they have at this point. He's young, but he's still incredibly resourceful and very, very
Yeah.
smart. He's been able to hold his own along the likes of Iron Man and Doctor Strange. Narrative importance, 9. After everything that happened in No Way Home, they're going to probably get him back to basics in Brand New Day, but he's still the heart of the MCU. And I think that experience that he has in No Way Home will inform the stuff that's going to happen in Doomsday. Wild card, I think a 9, actually, because we don't really still know the state that the Peter Parker character is in at this point.
Hmm.
Is he going to be recruited? Will other variants show up? Other villains from other multiverses and universes show up? There's a lot of potential chaos that could be at play for the Spider-Man character and ultimately his inclusion in Doomsday. And then fan investment, of course, it's a 10. He's arguably the most beloved hero in the history of Marvel. He's their number one character. So I think fans are very, very desperate to see him again, especially after what happened in Spider-Man No Way Home. So his total score for me, 44 out of 50. Very, very high ranking here. I think he's going to be, at the near top in terms of his importance to the roles of Doomsday.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And honestly, I didn't even include Spider Man on my list just because I do feel like he's going to be in it as well. I just like you said that I think everything you just said about him being a wild card is definitely on the table. But I love everything you said and everything. All of that makes a ton of sense. I think for the roster um, that you've built. Uh, and I think number one most important I think is obvious. It's um of course Dr. Doom, Robert Downey Jr. And man, it's hard not to just say tens across the board because I think that's almost exactly what he is and what it's going to be. My only thing, I don't know how they're going to power scale Doctor Doom in this thing in terms of we know there's two movies, right? And so it's hard for me to say in Doomsday that he'll be a complete max capacity right off the jump. So part of me in terms of power, honestly, I just want to give him. I gave him a 9 because I think they'll have everything there, but I don't know if they'll bring it all together by the end of the film completely. Part of me, I don't know. I think they will, but I just said a 9 because I think that's how the story is going to go. Strategic 10, again, another one of those smartest minds that we have. Narrative, he's literally the movie. Wild card, we don't know what the hell's going to happen with this dude. He can do anything. Fan investment is Robert Downey Jr. Another 10, my 49 out of 50 for Doctor Doom, man.
I didn't think to even include Doom on my list, just
Yeah,
because
now it
like
makes
it's
sense.
it's all I think very obvious with him as a character. Question about the fan: you think it's a 10, even though it's RDJ, yes, but it's not. It ain't Tony Stark. So
Mm-hmm.
due to that wrinkle in the relationship, like you still would say it's a 10 in terms of what people invest in and sort of their relationship to the character, though he's playing somebody completely different.
Maybe not a 10 all the way, I guess, in that way. But I'm thinking my train of thought is people are just like, well, what is Robert Downey Jr. going to do as this character? And I think it will maybe potentially be revealed that he is a variant of Tony Stark, right? And that everyone's like, oh, now we want to see how did you get here? How did you get to this place? So that's kind of I think the approach that I was taking from it, of people being like, oh, that's interesting. Or that's I would even rename it, I guess the way I grade it is fan intrigue instead of fan investment per se. But if you asking that question does make me want to go lower for sure and put it closer to an 8.
And what was that final score again for his character?
Uh, it was 48 out of 50.
48 out of 50. Okay. My last character, who I think is the most important, not named Doom, is Loki.
Yeah.
Loki is just so interesting. I was so glad that they announced Tom Hiddleston's inclusion in the film here. It makes all the sense in the world, but there was so much that was done in this show in those 2 seasons to really create multiversal threats and give us the language and understand what the multiverse means to the MCU, because there weren't really a ton of other projects that did that did the level of work that Loki did. So to go down through the categories, I'm giving his power level an 8. He's definitely up there in terms of the most powerful characters in the MCU, but not as powerful as his brother. You know, he's not as physically powerful as Thor, but magic, illusions, cunning make him still very, very unpredictable and dangerous. Strategic value, a 9. He's incredibly intelligent and smart. He's manipulated gods. He's manipulated timelines, TVA level security and systems. He has serious brain power that he can utilize throughout the film. Narrative importance, I'm gonna say a 9 as well. I think post season 2 of Loki, we now know that he's holding these timelines together, so he kind of has to be central because that's gonna just be a factor and be at play in the story of the film. Wild card 10, he's always a fucking 10. Like, you just never
He
know what's gonna happen
always.
with Loki. He's a
Hmm.
trickster. He's been through a redemption arc, but there's gonna be timeline chaos. Anything can happen, especially with him. And then fan investment, he's a 9. He's really, really up there in terms of being one of the most beloved and long running MCU characters. You know, there's still top tier hype and fandom and support around who Loki is. And so he gets a 9 from the fan investment level for me. So his final score is 45 out of 50, making him number one. To go down through my roster again, Loki number one again is, I think, going to be the most important. Just a prediction out there, but I think just his inclusion is going to mean a lot. Spider-Man at number 2 kind of speaks for itself, especially that moment when he sees Robert Downey Jr. in the movie. I just can't wait for that to happen, to see like what his reaction is going to be. Thor, we haven't seen a lot of him post in-game outside of Thor: Love and Thunder. I think that they have to give him some really, really meaningful stuff here. Mr. Fantastic, of course. He would be higher, but he's just not higher because we're only going to see him one time before the film comes out. And then last but not least, Sentry. I'm predicting that Sentry is going to be a stand-in for Molecule Man in the story and in this
Hmm.
movie. He's going to be
Hmm.
probably at the service or operating at the will of Doom to help create incursions, save the multiverse, like whatever Doom's motivation is going to be. I think Sentry is probably going to be his number one weapon. So those are my top 5. You want to recap your list?
Yeah, for sure. At number one, I have, of course, the one and only Doctor Doom. Of course, he's the narrative draw. It's also a potential. There's a lot of Doom stories where it's Doom versus Doom. I know it's a lot, but we could even get more than one. Robert Downey Jr. playing, of course, he's Iron Man and Doom, but it could even be another Doom out there, as well that people have to hold on to. But I have Doom at number one. Thor at number 2, like I just think he's going to be important. He's going to be one of our mainstays that we are like somebody we recognize on screen that we have a relationship with. He's powerful. He's quippy. He's going to be one of those people we're here for. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, yeah, too important. Him and his relationship with Doctor Doom is like how a lot of this goes down or a lot of this starts, man. And it's such an important rivalry and as sometimes friendship that I think is going to be important to explore. But he's going to be so important to the team. Shuri, the one of the technological geniuses that we have, she's going to be important in again explaining what the hell is going on in the world. She's not going to know, but I think she's going to be able to put it together and to help everyone explain kind of what's happening and talk with other brilliant minds of what's happening and be the center there. And then Shang-Chi, again, a lot of again questions. We keep talking about that Shang-Chi post-credit scene. What the hell does that even mean, if anything, at this point? But I think it shows that he's going to be important in the narrative. He's strong. He can be a really good team player, and we don't know what purpose he's going to serve. But I know we like him, and I know that yeah, he's going to be important to the story. So that's my 1 through 5.
All right. Moving on, we're going to do some bold predictions as well for the actual story of Avengers Doomsday, or at least story related things. And so we've listed out and power ranked our top 5 characters for the film. But now these are more specific things and emotional beats and occurrences that may or may not happen. We could be totally wrong in this upcoming movie. And so we have new categories for this as well. We're each going to go through and make a prediction in these respective categories. And they are character death, so somebody major in the film meeting their end, it being the end of their time within this story and potentially permanently within the MCU. The next category is cameo or variant. So this can be the inclusion of a character, a new actor that plays a new character, or a new actor that plays a variant of a character. I mean, it's kind of all on the table. The options are limitless for what that might look like. Plot twist, something that happens in the movie that changes our understanding of the story that they are telling, something that we just could not have predicted into the film, that just it changes course in the forward momentum of where the movie is going to go. The next category is final scene tease, and so think about the end of Infinity War, the dusting away of everybody. What's going to be the big final scene tease of Avengers Doomsday that sets up Avengers Secret Wars? And then the last category is power shift. So something that happens in the movie in which a hero or even a villain accumulates a new level of power. Maybe they get a new weapon, maybe they get some magic, maybe they combine things, maybe they steal somebody's power. Anything is at play there. So that'll be the final category. So with all of those laid out, I'll start off this one and go first. And we're going to start off with the big one, character death. And we talked a little bit about that. Who might die? Who's going to perish in this movie? Will it be somebody at the hands of Doom to just showcase how powerful he is? And I think it will be, but I don't think it's going to be somebody new or somebody that we haven't seen in these movies. I think it's going to be somebody that we love. And so my prediction, character death, is that Thor's going to die. I think Thor is going to face off with Doom one-on-one and die in battle against Doom. I'm not saying that it's going to happen at the beginning of the movie, first 10 minutes. Maybe it's in the first act. Maybe it comes, towards the end of the movie. But I think Thor might meet his end here. And even as I say that, it's not necessarily saying that Chris Hemsworth is going to not play Thor ever again, because look, Loki died in Infinity War and he got 2 seasons of a television show. So I'm not even going to say that it's the last time that we see Thor per se. I just think that this version of the character that we built up this relationship with for the past almost 15 years, I think his version of the character will probably meet his end at the hands of Doom in this movie. And if Chris Hemsworth decides to continue on, then maybe it allows him to do something wildly different, a different variant, a different version of the character. They can always find ways with that, but that'll be my bold prediction. Again, could be completely wrong because Chris Hemsworth has said he wants to be Thor forever, but I'm gonna just go ahead and throw that out there, that I think Thor will fight Doom and Doom will ultimately come out on top and beat him and kill him.
Yeah, no, that's a good prediction, and it's honestly one of my predictions as well. I really think that's going to happen. I really do, man. If you pick somebody that we all love, I don't know. That's part of the ways you get fan investment. He's one of the deaths that's left, and he didn't get snapped, which I think is important. He's one of the deaths that we have left, or one of the people that we have left. I think people would be like, "Oh my God, that's who died." What, we have no hope. Like, oh, what is happening here? I definitely think that's going to happen. My character death prediction is, and it comes with an explanation, a couple of things down in the same exercise and prediction category, but not even mentioned to be in the movie. I think Deadpool and Wolverine are going to die.
In Doomsday.
In Doomsday. I know it sounds ridiculous and crazy. I know it does, but there's a reason for it, and I'll explain it later. But I think Deadpool and Wolverine are gonna die.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty bold.
Yeah, I'll explain it later.
It's related to another category? Is that why you're holding off on it? Okay.
It's related to another category.
Fair enough. Interesting. Cameo or variant, next category here. I think similar vein in terms of deaths. I think there's going to be a lot of death in this movie. I'm going to say that a Tony Stark variant is going to appear and be killed by Doom. And when I say this, what I mean by that is that I think we will see RDJ also as Tony Stark in this movie. Not the one that obviously sacrificed himself at the end of Avengers Endgame, but I think we'll see a different Tony Stark variant. We'll see him either in the suit or operating and moving as Tony Stark. Maybe he's in Avengers Tower. Maybe he's in Malibu. I don't know. But I think that we'll get a version of Robert Downey Jr. as the character that made him so famous, because like that feels like a moment that you can't pass up. RDJ as Doom facing off against RDJ as Tony Stark, like that immediately quells and kind of answers questions that people have about the presence of RDJ in this movie, since he's not going to be playing Tony Stark. But I almost I almost harken it back to, something that similarly happened in Avengers Endgame, where you had those two Caps faced off against each other because they were doing the whole time travel, time heist shenanigans. You had Cap facing off against Cap to try to retrieve, one of the stones. I think we might get a similar moment here, so you can see just like the range of RDJ, the stark differences of what he's going to be as Doom versus what we know him as and what he used to be as Tony Stark in those previous movies.
No, I love that. It's funny because my cameo is related to yours, but it's the off the wall version where that version of Tony Stark is Tom Cruise.
Oh my God, I've given up hope on that one at this point. I would love it, but I've
No,
completely
no, no,
just
no,
shut the
no.
door on that one.
No, that's so funny. No, but my real cameo, honestly, again, it had these my character death, my cameo, my plot twists are all connected. But honestly, the cameo that I have here is Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. As cameos in this film. I think they're going to show up, and I guess while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and add my plot twist of why all these things are connected.
Please reveal. Well, what's the big story that you're telling here?
It's not a crazy big story, but we did all this work in Deadpool, Wolverine, and Loki, and all of this stuff. I think it would be really cool if Dr. Doom shows up and he's like killing all of these different variants. And so the TVA has to find different anchor beings in different universes and put them together to form another small team to help fight and combat Doom. That's why I think Deadpool and Wolverine died, because those were the last people they worked with. You know what I mean? I think they're gonna die and be like, whoa, we can't do this alone and have to go find anchor beings. So they go find Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. They go find maybe a different Doctor Strange. They go find maybe a different Tony Stark, a different Iron Man. Maybe that's how we get Professor X might be the anchor being and his, you know what I'm saying? I think that would be really cool if they did something like that. And then yeah, that's how we get them. And that's kind of why those three are connected. It's really weird and really just like, again, this what makes the prediction bold. But I just kind of like that concept of like TVA has to put together this team, and that's how we get some of the other cool cameos in the movie.
I do like that idea. The anchor being concept probably will be referenced again here, and TVA being a part and involved in that. I like that. I think that makes sense. I just don't think that there's any way that they're killing Deadpool and Wolverine before Secret Wars. Like you still have a whole nother movie to sell. Like that needs to be Avengers Endgame level, and like you need star power, heavy hitters, and so like all those people you just mentioned, I think they're all going to be in Secret Wars. In fact, I think they're going to be main stage for Secret Wars, just because right now, if this cast that they've announced walks into Secret Wars, nah, that ain't it. That ain't it for the audience. We need people that people actually give a fuck about. But I do like that concept, though. I do like just the thinking and how that might actually shape the story. Plot twist for me, honestly, it's not really that huge, but I do think it's going to probably inform news that we heard, and I think that we're going to see Captain America, Steve Rogers Captain America, return, but he's not going to be the one that we know. He's going to be a variant and leading potentially a different version of the Avengers, maybe a dark Avengers, maybe he's like the nomad version of Captain America. But I think in the movie along the way, that's going to be a character that they don't announce, that they don't tease out beforehand. He's going to pop up in the film as just a different Captain America. And shit, maybe it's even the one from Earth 616, that went back in time and set the stones, back to where they needed to be. And that's how you get Peggy Carter involved in that. But I think that Captain America has to be a part of this, played by Steve Rogers, whether or not it's the one that we know or a different version. Still remains to be seen, but I think he'll have his own other team. I think it'll be a new, different version of the Avengers. Again, more variants at play that he's leading, potentially variants of characters that will be in this movie or variants of previous Avengers. But I would suspect he's likely a darker version, not the Steve Rogers that we fell in love with over the course of his original tenure, but a new Steve Rogers that could just give us a whole new side of the character that we haven't seen. So that will be my plot twist that probably happens somewhere in Act 2 of the movie that just changes the whole dynamic of what we thought the story was ultimately shaping up to be.
Yeah, I think that's just a really cool idea, man. That we haven't quite explored, and I just yeah, I just really like it, and I think that there's so much potential there for I guess concepts and ideas of like wow, bad Cap, bad Iron Man, bad, but it all comes with a little bit, hopefully, some depth of like whoa, this thing is different and not what we were meant to see, and I like moments like that because it gives the characters that currently exist in the MCU reason to be like, damn, this is fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, wait, that's not the Steve Rogers we know. Oh my god, this is terrible. And so I don't know, just an idea that I really like and I think I resonate with. Hopefully they can do something like that.
For sure. You already gave sort of your plot twist at this point. So what would you have for your final scene tease? How do you envision the movie ending?
My final scene tease is one. I think the incursions are happening, right? I think like is all these worlds are starting to come together. I really think that this is the time, if not in Secret Wars, that we are going to get some kind of T'Challa something. It could be he pops up, or a foot could walk through a door. I don't know. We hear an accent. I have no idea what package they're going to put it in, but I think in terms of post credit scenes, if you wanted it to feel important and to feel meaty, you would include T'Challa Black Panther played by an actor. I don't know who it is, but I think it would be a really cool way to announce it versus like us hearing about all this news of who it is and we're like, oh my god, is it him? Like just surprise us in the movie. Who is it? Has he been cast? I think it's a good way to lead into Secret Wars. I really do. But that's my hopeful final scene tease.
So incursions plus potential T'Challa reveal
Mm-hmm.
or recasting. So down no, but also like a little bit of hope to
Yeah.
set us up for the next movie. Mine is somewhat similar. Look, I think this movie has to end with incursions happening. Like that's the story. So I have the same thing. Incursions are starting to happen. We see the creation of Battle World, setting the
Yeah.
stage for Secret
That's happening.
Wars.
Hell yeah.
Like that just makes sense. I think going into Infinity War, people had speculated like, oh, wouldn't it be crazy if the movie ended with Thanos snapping his fingers? And then they did it, and it was like, oh fuck, they
It's
actually
like,
did
oh.
it. Like we saw half of life and humanity just dust away. This is one of those things where it's like, yeah, Secret Wars is coming, and so we're gonna start to see Battle World. And I think in addition to this is where we see, because I just don't think they're going to be. I don't. If I had to predict now, I don't think they're going to be in this movie. But I think that a tease at the end of the movie could show us Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and Hugh
Mm-hmm.
Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. Like we'll get the tease, like they're coming in Secret Wars because we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
variants, we're seeing universes collide. I just don't
Yeah.
think they're going to be in this movie because again, I think you still have to hold some stuff back to make Secret Wars even bigger and better than Doomsday. But I think we'll likely start to see a lot of those different universes pop up and some of the different characters that make up those universes. Quite honestly, I envision it somewhat similarly to what they did, although much better executed to what they did in The Flash. That sequence in The Flash where we saw the universes start to collide with each other, I envision something like that, but they just have to they have to do much better execution because I really hate that scene in The Flash. But I think something similar like that as the final scene tease, setting the stage for what's going to happen with Secret Wars. And I'll continue with my power shift, the last category, because I think that this is
Mm-hmm.
related to the final scene tease as
Mm-hmm.
well. I think this all happens like at the end of the movie. And this is a down note, but again, I think Doctor Doom is going to become God Emperor Doom by the end of the
Oh.
movie, becoming even
Oh.
stronger. And to do so, he's going to steal the power of the Sentry. He's going to use the Sentry as his weapon
Damn.
throughout the movie. He's going to, figure out the whole multiverse. Sentry can manipulate molecule and molecular power, whatever the case may be. I think we'll get a better understanding of Thunderbolts. But I think at the end of it, he'll kill Sentry because he has no use for him. And he steals his power, and somehow his power combined with his power will make him God Emperor Doom. We'll get him in that fucking dripped out all white. I think that has to happen. Because look, you're using Doom, you got to go all the way at this point. Like, there's no waiting, there's no start. Like, no, Doom is here. They're gonna use him, and if Robert Downey Jr. nails it out of the park, there's no need to just like hold this shit off for an imaginary future movie that's probably not going to happen. Do it now. Give us God Emperor Doom. Give him and make him the biggest ultimate threat that Marvel has ever had in any movie, and I think that's how the movie finishes off.
Hell yeah. Doom and that white boy. Oh my God. The nerd in me would be very happy. It would even make me happier if there was like I think I think there's a moment where like Doom kills Thanos or something, but he's in that all white joint. Like Yeah, when you in the, it's scary when you're all white, man, because that's not the color you're supposed to be wearing. You're a bad guy.
Yeah,
Like,
good guys wear white, right?
why do you have that on? Why do you think that of yourself? It's so crazy, man. I love that idea so much. I really hope that happens. I really do. I really had a hard time thinking about this one. I was like, dang, what is my power shift? And mine isn't even really like a huge power shifty thing. I'd say it's just low level thought, I would say, even, but it's kind of stupid. But Star Lord just becomes a more important character in the Avengers. It's all I have. Like, that's the power shift. Is like he becomes a mainstay Avenger, because I think we need him. Like, we were talking about all these B-list characters, people we haven't been with. We've been with Star-Lord for a very long time now at this point in a lot of movies. And at this point, he's not with the Guardians anymore. It makes sense for him to just kind of get absorbed by the Avengers and be one of those characters that we can look forward to. He doesn't have as much power, I think, as some of those other Avengers, but I think him learning, being part Celestial, he will start to get and see a little bit more of his power and become more powerful as an Avenger. So that's really all I had. That's really all I could think of. I couldn't think of anything else besides that. But you killed it. Yours is great.
The Celestial side of things is interesting, though. He is, like, people forget about that because they don't really touch upon it in Volume 3 at all. But
Yeah.
that's still very much a part of him. So that could change and swing the tide in the favor of the Avengers in the movie. So will be interesting. But folks, let us know what you think about our predictions, our power rankings, our picks for Avengers Doomsday. Let us know if you agree, disagree, have other thoughts about what the movie might ultimately entail. As we close out here, got one more thing we want to do to really just kind of lean into the nostalgia bag and think about, many of the good things that Marvel has given us, a few hiccups there and there that'll be highlighted. But we're going to do like a lightning round of just questions. And so this is meant to be answered quickly, decisively, maybe add in a little bit of color with like a sentence or two as to why you picked something or why you named something. But this isn't meant to be necessarily a long drawn out conversation, especially when we get to this or that. But we do have like a set of questions first and foremost that we're going to talk about quickly here. And this is to highlight all aspects of Marvel in live action. So this will be highlighting the MCU, the Fox X-Men universe, the Sony Spider-Man universe, animated things that we've gotten from the last 25 years, the last quarter century of Marvel, which is really where they've had their creative, sort of resurgence. They didn't have much of a presence in other media outside of animation and a few really bad movies. The 21st century is where we really know Marvel to kind of rule in this current landscape of superhero storytelling in live action and in animation. And so we're going to go down a list of 10 questions. This is where we're going to start off with. And just give your answers quick, easy, decisive. If you have like a couple of things you want to add to it, you can say that. But, just want to kind of give people one last taste of like where we are with Marvel and some of our preferences, some of the things that we really love and really adore about Marvel films from the 21st century. So, first and foremost, you ready to go? We're gonna get this going. What's the best Marvel movie of the 21st century?
Avengers Infinity War. I really do think so.
Anything else you want to say about it?
I've never left the movie feeling how I left that movie. We lost, but it was like, damn, we lost. That was can't explain it. It was just perfect way to end the film. I think it was phenomenal. Thanos was good. The action was good. And just tens across the board for me. I really enjoyed myself, and I'll never forget it.
Hard to disagree. For the sake of difference, I'll just say Spider-Man 2. I don't know if a solo movie has achieved what that Spider-Man 2 film did in terms of hero and villain just working together in sync and just telling such a complete story. Saw it in theaters last year when they did the re-release, and it was just like, wow, this is still amazing. Still holds up quite a bit, even 20 plus years later. Favorite fight scene in a Marvel film?
Ooh, so this one was really hard. There's so much. I picked something very, I guess, basic, you could say, but Cap and Bucky in the street, man. Cap and Bucky in the street
In Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier,
Yes.
man, a banger. It is what it is. I love the action. I love the way it felt. It was just really good to me, man. I could watch it anytime and be like, I want to watch a fight scene in Marvel. I might turn that on.
I'm picking the airport battle in Civil War. That was
Hell yeah.
just amazing. And in the theaters, that was just an incredible moment to see as many heroes fighting each other. We hadn't really seen it to that degree in that level before, but that airport battle just did so much, and it just created so much excitement for what Infinity War and Endgame could be. Next one, which Marvel team up moment gave you chills?
Avengers one. Honestly, bruh, we had never seen that before. The first time they teamed up, the circle shot, the roundabout shot of seeing all the Avengers together, it was like, oh, we have made it. It actually gave me chills, like multiple times. Like the second time I went to watch it, it gave me chills again. It's one of those for sure. As of course, a very small number two is on your left. It just that line gave me chills, but Avengers one is the real answer for me.
Iconic moment. It's like one of the most replayed things in the MCU at this point. We see that shot all the time.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield in No Way Home.
Yes, absolutely.
What this moment had that Avengers and Avengers Endgame did not have was 20 plus years of history. I mean, Endgame had 11 years of history. Avengers 1 had 6 years of history, but this was like 20 plus years of history going all the way back to Tobey Maguire. Just such a special moment to see them on screen, to see Andrew Garfield on screen get his due. It was a really, really special moment. Next one, best opening scene in a Marvel movie. Go.
So I don't even know if it's the best, but it's the favorite for sure. Thor Ragnarok. I love the opening of Thor Ragnarok. I think it's so fun. I'm like, it was the moment where it was like, I think y'all got it. Like, I think y'all actually get what's happening here with Thor. But yeah, just fantastic all the way. Music was fire. It looked decent. I instantly. It's just a good way to open the film. A reason why that movie is so good. I think is they just got it from the beginning.
Yeah, way different than what they were doing with the previous two, for sure.
For sure.
I picked the opening montage from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the previously on Spider-Man montage. A plus storytelling. It was stylish. It was meta. It sets the tone for the whole multiverse story. A lot of heart and a lot of humor, calling back to all the big Spider-Man moments from live action films. It just told you, hey guys, this is going to be different. You haven't seen any story like this, and we're leaning into the history of Spider-Man. It was just so refreshing, and it just gave me so much confidence that the movie was going to be incredible, and it certainly was. Next one. What movie had the best villain arc?
So the movie part is what's hard because I want to say Lucky so bad, but I'm actually gonna go with Wanda though. I'm actually gonna go with Wanda because it was so different
From which movie?
Multiverse of Madness.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's not it's not a complete arc in the show. That's what makes it so hard because it's not one movie. You know what I mean? It's like multiple things that added up into the movie that makes it an arc. So, but I think I just like all of it still in totality. Because yeah, she went through a lot and it still didn't end on a happy note, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that it's still in some ways tragic even at the end, you know what I mean? So that's why I kind of went in my mind. I went with Wanda.
Fair enough. I'm
I think it's cool.
picking Doc Ock from Spider-Man 2.
Yeah,
That's a complete story, beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah,
I don't know if any villain has had as many shades of gray and just understanding and empathy to what he went through, then to becoming a big, huge villain, being menacing. Just great stuff with Alfred Molina and his performance from that movie. Next one. What's the coolest use of superpowers on screen that we've gotten?
man. So I'm gonna say it. Makari and Eternals. That was one of the best speedsters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best speedster concepts that I have ever seen. We at that time we were so used to Quicksilver and the slow motion and all of that stuff. And Makari was like, "No, y'all can do this in real time and make it look good." We haven't gotten a lot of like good feeling speedsters. Shoot, the Flash was also doing all of this slow motion stuff. But when I see Makari, I was like, "Yeah, do that more." So I really love bringing up Makari and Eternals, man. I really do.
That was really good speedster stuff for sure. They nailed that. For me, it's the Doctor Strange versus Thanos fight from Avengers Infinity War. Unbelievable. Strange clones, magical chains, the mirror dimension. Fire. Thanos was using the reality and power and soul stones in the middle of the fight. It was about cleverness. It was about timing and really sheer magical power and finesse. It reminded me of a video game or an anime. It was just really, really visually dazzling. Loved that stuff. I thought that the powers and the way that they were deployed in that scene were just incredible, top tier stuff. Next one, which soundtrack or musical cue slapped the hardest for you?
I love Black Panther, bro. It's just something about it that was just everything for
The
me,
whole
man.
soundtrack you're picking.
I love the whole Black Panther soundtrack. Like it was one of the ones I was just playing all the time. Ludwig Göransson, I think, just did his thing, but it was also, you could just tell all the influences that was coming in from it, and I love. And anytime music hits in Black Panther, I'm like, oh, it's time to go, baby. Let's do this thing. So yeah, I picked Black Panther.
I'm picking Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the first soundtrack. Just incredible. Sunflower has become like the highest charting single in history or something crazy like that. Like,
Yeah,
just a great
it's
song.
ridiculous.
Just a great soundtrack, and really adds to the story of the movie quite a lot. Next one, best franchise trilogy or series within the Marvel universe.
Oh man, it's this is like the hardest question ever, because there's actually a lot of good answers here. But uh, uh okay, I'm gonna go with Spider-Man, bro. I am the original Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3.
Sam
I
Raimi's
am
movies.
Sam Raimi's. I am, and 1 and 2 carry a lot of weight here. I'm gonna lie to you. I'm not the craziest fan of 3, but I love 1 and 2 so much, and it's just done I think a lot for me throughout time. It's more of a personal choice, for sure. Because yeah, I think without those movies, I don't know where we'd be, for sure. And I was gonna cheat, I think, and I had another answer, but I'm gonna go with Spider-Man actually.
Yeah, those first two movies are unassailable. If it was just those two, no question. I'm gonna say Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
The
it's a
complete
good choice.
package, 1, 2, 3, all of them hit different varying degrees, different emotional beats, but just love all three of those movies. And Guardians 1 in particular kind of changed my perception of the MCU. What's the most underrated Marvel film?
Blade 2.
You think Blade 2 is underrated? I think people celebrate
Sometimes.
that movie
You
quite a
think people
lot.
celebrate it? You think people celebrate it?
I think
What?
so. People often say, from what I hear and from what I've seen for 10, 15 years of discourse, people always are saying like Blade 2 is the best one. That's what I hear a lot. Even though Blade 1 obviously had to set the tone, but Guillermo comes in, new vision. But I mean, it's not not necessarily a movie that's necessarily been seen by the most people. So I could see that. I could see that that
Yeah.
train of thinking for sure. But yeah,
hmm
interesting pick
If
though.
yeah, and if I had to add one, I also always in my mind I always say Guardians 2 is underrated, and you just gave it the best trilogy, which is funny. But I'm always like, that movie's really good.
Yeah,
Guardians 2 is great. So yeah, that would be like my other answer for sure, is Guardians 2.
that's fair. I would say the Wolverine, James Mangold's movie,
Yeah.
which it grows over time and gets better and better. And I see what he was doing. At the time that I watched it, didn't really resonate with me, but over the years, I'm like, oh no, this is a really, really good movie. You don't get Logan without it. So I would pick that one. Last big question here before we move on to this and that. What Marvel movie changed the perception of superhero films?
Avengers 2012, I think. That was I think Iron Man in my mind was my initial answer, but I was like, that was still like the test run. It was still like, okay, this is what this thing could be, but Avengers was like, oh, whoa, this is crazy. I didn't it that was the moment we knew it was possible, for real, for real. You know what I mean? That was like the now everything really changes. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Avengers.
For this one, I'm picking Iron Man. Iron Man changed the game entirely.
It
Robert
did.
Downey Jr. set the blueprint, set the formula. Everything that they accomplished in Avengers, you don't get without Iron Man. So I think that, when people saw that movie and saw how good the movies can be and the balance that they can strike between comedy and action and heart and humor and humanity, Iron
Mhm.
Man kind of perfected that. And I think, really set the stage for the MCU. So that would be my pick. So those are some interesting questions to ponder on, but definitely a good exercise to do. All right, and our last big activity that we're going to do is a game of this or that. So there are 25 different this or that variations to just go
Sheesh.
through. Again, lightning round, really quick responses. First gut reaction that comes to mind. I'll ask you, and you can give your reactions. If I agree with something, I probably won't really say much.
Mhm.
I'll just move on to the next one. But if I have a different answer, then I will provide that as well. So you ready for this or that?
Let's do it.
All right, Avengers: Infinity War or Avengers: Endgame?
Infinity War, for sure.
Shang-Chi's bus fight or Cap's elevator fight from Winter Soldier?
Shang-Chi's bus fight.
Mm,
It's really good. I know. It's a hard one. It's a hard one.
it's a really hard
I
one.
love them. I love them both.
I'm gonna go with the elevator fight.
Yeah.
just crazy close quarters combat.
It is.
Cap wielding Mjolnir from Endgame, or Bring Me
Mm-hmm.
Thanos from Thor and Infinity War.
Kaplan and Mjolnir. It was like it was built up a little bit better. I loved it.
I'm gonna say Bring Me Thanos from Infinity War. Just the
Okay.
constant losing, and then having the one shred of hope. Incredible moment, incredible
Yeah.
payoff with Thor. X2 or X-Men Days of Future Past.
Lord have mercy. What a crazy question to ask somebody. I'm gonna go X2. I'm gonna go X2, and my specific reason, honestly, is Nightcrawler. I ain't gonna lie to you.
It's a good pick. It's a good pick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Days of Future Past because that's still the best send off to those characters that we've gotten.
Yeah.
So that's
good.
the one I'm gonna pick. Next one, the Galactus Cloud from Rise of the Silver Surfer, or Sealed Mouth Deadpool from Wolverine Origins.
Give me. What the hell is this question, bro?
Come on, man, gotta pick. Which one?
Still Mouth Deadpool. Still Mouth Deadpool. They both pissed me off, but that Cloud was like a different level of like y'all can't be serious here, man. Y'all can't be.
Both missed the mark tremendously, but I
just
agree.
Like whoa.
Galactus Cloud, like what the hell is that even? So I gotta agree. Seal Mouth Deadpool. Next one, Nightcrawler attacks the White House from X2, or Quicksilver's time in a bottle scene from Days of the Future Past.
Oh, we. You keep asking all these mutant questions to me. I'm gonna go Quicksilver though. I am as much as I love the opening Nightcrawler scene. That time in the bottle scene, the first time I seen it was like, whoa, this is really cool. Like I just love the production behind it. Yeah, it's really dope to me. I like it.
I agree. I that one edges it out just a bit. Avengers Tower or Avengers Compound?
Avengers Tower, I think. Yeah.
More iconic. I feel like it's just more iconic, you know?
Yeah, we haven't even really spent time in the compound either. For real,
not much.
For real. Yeah, Avengers Tower it's just middle of freaking New York. This is a tower. It's really cool. Yeah, I like Avengers Tower.
Yeah, it just really matches that skyline, and it's been integral to the story quite a bit. Battle of New York, Endgame, they go back to it, so I agree. They destroyed the compound too; it doesn't even exist at this point. Xavier's death in X-Men: The Last Stand, or his death in Multiverse of Madness?
Lord Jesus, like which one's more gnarly? Like,
however you interpret it.
His death in Logan. No, let's do. I'm gonna go with his death and dang, bro. I'm gonna go with Multiverse of Madness. Last Stand was like, what are we doing? Or like, what is happening? Multiverse of Madness was like, damn. It was like, oh yeah, I like my reaction better to the Multiverse of Madness death than I do my reaction to the Last Stand. At the time, Last Stand, I was like, I think I was a little confused in Last Stand.
I would pick Multiverse of Madness as well, only because they undid his death in The Last Stand in the very same movie, in the post-credit scene. They said like, oh no, he's alive.
He's back.
So I would pick Multiverse of Madness too. WandaVision or Loki season 1?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'm going WandaVision. I think I am going to WandaVision. It was just so different. It was.
I agree. Both had a couple of moments that dipped off. The ending of WandaVision in particular, but just much more creative liberties and freedom and exploration in WandaVision than even Loki. And I love Loki season 1, but I think WandaVision is the right answer. Shang-Chi versus Wenwu from Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, or Cap and Bucky versus Iron Man from Civil War?
Oh, Cap versus Bucky, bro. It was whoa. That fight was crazy. It was just really cool to watch, man. I loved, man, they was whooping ass. It was crazy. Yeah, that's my pick.
I'm picking Shang-Chi versus Wenwu. I think I just like the fight better. They're both very personal. That's why I pitted them against each other. They're very personal fights that build up over the course of the movie. Cap and Bucky double teaming Iron Man, not my favorite moment. It's emotional and impactful, but I'm gonna say Shang-Chi and Wenwu. Plus like wuxia martial arts stuff in the MCU we hadn't seen before. True. Wakanda Forever or Avengers Assemble?
Avengers Assemble, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, surprisingly, it's just still more iconic at this point. I think there's actually potential for Wakanda Forever to be my pick, but I think it needs more time. I really do. I think something about it just needs more time.
I think I agree. I think that's right. I think I agree. Jared Leto as Morbius or Dakota Johnson as Madam Web?
Bruh, neither. Neither. Let's just throw them all out the window. I'm honestly though, I'm gonna go Dakota Johnson as Madam Web because I think she knew exactly what the fuck she was doing. Like I think she when you watch it, it's like you know exactly what you're in. I think, and yeah, I'm gonna go Madam Web, bro.
I agree. It's not Morbin time over here.
Hell no.
I think searching for spiders in the jungle and the iconic line delivery from Dakota Johnson. It'll have a shelf life. I'll just say that. Next one, Awesome Mix Volume 1 or Awesome Mix Volume 2?
Ooh, they both are so good. Awesome Mix Volume 1 had Hooked on a Feeling, Spirit in the Sky, Go All the Way, Moon Age Daydream, Ooh, I Want You Back, Ooh, I'm Not in Love, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, oh my God, Lord have mercy. And then Awesome Mix Volume 2 had Mr. Blue Sky, Bring It On Home to Me, My Sweet Lord, Brandy, Wham. I'm gonna go one. Volume 1.
One is more iconic songs, I would say. I like 2 better though. I think 2
Yeah.
has better deep cuts. ELO is in there, Parliament's in there.
Parliament, that flashlight.
Yeah,
Oh my
a lot of good
God.
stuff. I think Volume 2's soundtrack meshes with the story more so than Volume 1. Like it's very integral to the
Very good point.
story. So I'm gonna go Volume 2.
I like it.
On the video game side of things, Marvel's Spider-Man or Marvel's Spider-Man 2? Talking about the PS4, PS5 video games here.
I'm gonna go Marvel Spider-Man 2. I think I do. I'm gonna go Spider-Man 2. Yeah, it
Okay.
was something about the miles of it all. I really enjoyed and appreciated. But it was like, oh, I can be both. Hell yeah, it's something about it that I enjoyed for sure. So I'm gonna go 2.
I'm gonna say the first one. Blueprint set the stage, created
Yeah,
a whole new dynamic system of how to play with Spider-Man in video games, and I think better villains overall.
I'd
I would
agree.
say
I'd
a better
agree.
rogues gallery in that film. We got Sinister Six in like the first game. It was crazy. Winter Soldier or Civil War?
Winter Soldier.
Agreed. Asgard or the TVA?
Damn. Because the TVA is pretty freaking cool. Like, oh, man, the reason this is so hard is the production on both films are fire. Like, they make Asgard look really cool, man. I'm, oof, I'm gonna go Asgard. Actually, I am. I love the TVA. It's cool, but I don't want to be there. I'm gonna go Asgard.
To be there. That's a really good point. You do not want to end up in the fucking TVA at all. I'm gonna pick the TVA. It just visually looks cool, the retro
It
futuristic
does.
stuff.
It's hella tight. It's
Just really
hella
dope
tight.
stuff. So I'm gonna pick the TVA for that one. Next one, Topher Grace's Venom or Famke Jensen's Dark Phoenix?
Famke is Dark Phoenix. I think.
Really?
Yeah, I think so, man.
That's fair.
I
That's
think
fair.
so.
Yeah, they're both pretty bad. Both third film villains that were very, very poorly mismanaged.
They just missed the mark.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Topher Grace's Venom, just not great
Yeah.
casting
I
at
like
all.
I like how Famke's Dark Phoenix was like actually just like killing people. That shit was tight.
That's true.
It was like, oh, you're serious. You out here. So yeah,
Good
I'm gonna
point.
go with that.
It's clobbering time or Hulk smash.
It's clobbering time. A line, but the the nerds are gonna erupt in Fantastic Four when they hear it, and I'm one of them. It's clobbering time for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I can't wait for that moment in this new movie. Ian McKellen's Magneto lifting the Golden Gate Bridge from The Last Stand, or Michael Fassbender's Magneto lifting the stadium in Days of Future Past.
Oh, those are both fire. Oh, those are both fire. I'm gonna go Michael Fassbender. I think lifting the stadium. I am, and I feel like past me would have picked the bridge, but nah, lifting the stadium was pretty crazy, man. It was just so much better in the story than lifting the Golden Gate Bridge was. It just made more sense. So yeah, I'm gonna go Michael Fassbender.
I agree. It's definitely better story wise. I'm gonna pick the Golden Gate Bridge though, just because we had not seen anything like
It
that.
was crazy. It
It
was
was the
nuts.
first time you really saw Magneto's powers in live action, and I was just like, oh yeah, this guy is Omega level mutant, not to be fucked with. Edward Norton as Bruce Banner or Terrence Howard as Colonel James Rhodes.
This is so funny. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Ed Norton. Ed Norton, no, Bruce Banner. I think, man. I'm gonna go Ed Norton. He brought some cool stuff to the character. Terrence Howard. There was something about his roadie that was fun though. Like that was like, oh, you're having a good time playing this role. Something, yeah. So I really like Terrence Howard too. But I'm gonna go Ed Norton though. Ed Norton was cool. Ed Norton was cool.
We did lose a little bit of that fun and that edge from Terrence Howard
Yeah,
when he got
Don Cheadle
recasted.
didn't necessarily like bring that like.
Yeah, he's a
I don't
different type
know,
of actor.
different
Yeah,
type of actor. Yeah, Terrence Howard he was having a good time.
I agree. I'm gonna pick Edward Norton as Bruce Banner. Have you seen these Terrence Howard videos? Dude is on some other shit these days. I don't know
Yeah,
what's going on, but he's
like
deep in his
yeah.
science bag. I can't explain it. Hulk versus Hulkbuster from Avengers: Age of Ultron, or Thor versus Hulk from Ragnarok.
Ooh. Thor versus Hulk, I think, is a better fight. Yeah, I'm just go Thor versus Hulk. I think Hulk versus Hulkbuster was really cool though too, but it was like, what's happening? Yeah, I'm gonna go Thor versus Hulk. I'm gonna go Thor versus Hulk. Thor versus Hulk.
I'm picking Hulk versus Hulkbuster. Age of
Yeah,
Ultron. Not great that they leveled a South American or South African city, but it was pretty epic to see
it was epic.
Hulkbuster for the first time in live action, and Hulk really like raging out and just going crazy. So I'm gonna pick that
Mm-hmm.
one. Battle of New York from Avengers 1, or Battle at Avengers Compound from Endgame.
Battle of New York still, actually, I think. I really do. I think I'm gonna go with that.
I agree. I still think that that's the best overall fight in MCU history. Nothing
I think
really quite
so.
like it. Just very
Yeah.
dynamic, very very influential for the action standpoint. Team Cap or Team Iron Man?
I am. It's always so hard, man, because Iron Man got Spider-Man and Black Panther, and it's not fair that they're over there. 'Cause otherwise, I'd be Team Cap, but I'm Team Iron Man because of those reasons. They got Black Panther and Spider-Man, man. I can't. I gotta go Team Iron Man.
They're pretty loaded. I'm picking Team Cap. Philosophically, I'm a big Team Cap from that
Yeah,
standpoint.
I agree philosophically for sure.
Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man No Way Home?
Why would you do that to me? Why would you do that to me? I am going to go with Spider-Man 2. Wow, that was hard to say out loud because I don't even know if I believe myself, but I'm gonna go with Spider-Man 2. It's just such a good movie, man. Just to me, a perfect Spider-Man film through and through. I really love Spider-Man 2. I do.
Spider-Man 2 for me as well, and I think it's aged fantastically. Still
It
holds up,
did.
and you can still stand it
Did.
toe to toe with
You,
any of these movies to this day.
there's something about those Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies that like it's just a feeling of Spider-Man we haven't recreated. I actually think they're about to try to do now. Like they haven't had the opportunity. I think Brand New Day is like, okay, let's get back to that kind of thing. But yeah, there's something they haven't recreated with Peter Parker as a character in those movies that they were doing. So yeah, Spider-Man 2.
Totally. Last but not least, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man or Hugh Jackman as Wolverine?
Wow.
Probably the two most important castings in 21st century Hollywood we're talking about here.
You could
Very
write a book on this.
Oh yeah, there have been books. It's very very pivotal. There's been much literature written about just the importance of what these two men have brought to these respective franchises for sure. So it's not an easy one.
It's not an easy one at all. But I either surprisingly or unsurprisingly, I'm gonna go with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I am. It's a different beast than Behemoth. I love Hugh Jackman, what he's done for Wolverine. I can sing his praises all day long. But Robert Downey Jr., man, he really kicked off this thing, and it's just created a different beast than that was ever created. Like this is different. He's such a beast that they were like, we have to make him Dr. Doom. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like that. So I'm gonna go with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I am.
Yeah, that's fair. There's really no wrong answer here. I'm gonna pick Hugh Jackman as Wolverine because I think Hugh Jackman had much less to work with than Robert Downey Jr. had. Robert Downey Jr. has always kind of had a great machine behind him, especially after Iron Man 1 did so successfully. He was almost bulletproof at that point, like Avengers and Civil War and Endgame. Like when you think about these movies, like they had everything behind them. Hugh Jackman has had to bob and weave so fucking much throughout these movies and make something out of nothing, make chicken salad out of chicken shit. You know, and it almost didn't make it out. You know, when you think about Last Stand, that could have been the end. When you think about Wolverine Origins, that could have been the end. When you think about Logan, that could have been the end. But he has persevered for 25 years, and so he's done it for longer than RDJ. And I think he's done it somewhat more successfully just because he's been able to persevere through much, much greater circumstances as opposed to Robert Downey Jr., who
Well,
had a lot more to work with
I like
from
that.
an infrastructure standpoint, also just characters that he had to act against as well. But there really is no wrong answer.
Everything.
So that was fun. That was a good time. But as we wrap up here, last thoughts, man, about Marvel before we end the podcast. Hopes, excitement, ambition. What are you looking forward to the most in the future? Anything you want to say about Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, Doomsday, whatever. Like the table is set for you to provide your final closing thoughts on Marvel, the MCU, any other Marvel properties as we move forward into the future.
Yeah, usually, whenever Marvel or there's upcoming Marvel films, there's always one or two that I am either not as excited about, or usually I'm excited about everything. Don't get me wrong, but it's always like I don't know about this movie, I don't know about that movie, and we talked about coming to a point where it's like, wow, Marvel really has to do their damn thing these next couple movies, and I think for me personally, I'm surprised of how still excited I am. Part of me feels like the track record we've gotten. Sure, I should be excited about some things, but I'm like really surprised how excited I am about Thunderbolts now. I'm surprised about how excited I am about Fantastic Four now, because there was a time where again, you maybe asked me the same question at the same time last year, and I'm like, I don't know anymore. Like, am I losing faith, or I am losing faith? What's happening? But I'm still rooting for Marvel at the end of the day. I always am. I want these things to be successful, and I think I am excited for Thunderbolts. I'm excited for Fantastic Four. I'm excited for Spider-Man. Always, I am excited for Doomsday, and I think there's always a possibility that these things are still successful. But like we said before, or like I said before, they gotta hit some bangers here. It's really important for the franchise and for what we view as what we have now in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think it really is. It's time to nut up or shut up. Is what they need to do, man. But yeah, I'm excited to see everybody and everything. Marvel as an entity, man, they got to get it together. But I'm rooting for them, and that's really all I can say, man. Is I'm rooting for them. But I'll always be a fan. I'll always be here. I'll always be excited. Hopefully for the next thing. The last words I'll leave with is somebody get this damn Blade movie out the door, please. If not, I'm gonna go make one myself. uh, and yeah, I'll be the director. No worries. I'll get it together. But I think that we I still have to commend Marvel for everything they've done. This has been a good run, but hopefully they can continue it. And if not, this will be a send off for real. Like, goodbye, everybody. At least we tried. But I still have a somewhat faith in them that they'll get it done. But that's all I got.
Um, I think the best days are behind us. I think the glory days are gone. Everybody has their run. Everybody goes on their championship streak when the time is appropriate. So I think that time is come and gone. But that doesn't mean we still can't have great stuff ahead of us and things to look forward to. And I think we're now reaching a point where the next few projects are things that I'm looking forward to. I am excited for Doomsday. I can't wait to see how that story unfolds and what they do and how it leads into Secret Wars. I just wonder about the direction and what they're going to do after that. Whether they're going to
Mm-hmm.
go for a more grounded approach and try to maybe reset and do the formula over that made the Infinity Saga so successful, or if they just kind of press forward and continue to expand and grow and breathe new life into the franchise with new characters. I don't know. We'll have to ultimately see. Not sure which direction is right and or wrong, but I think
Mm-hmm.
we're in a place now where even though they're not the dominant force that they used to be, things like a Minecraft movie are. They can still try to like find success and still give us like meaningful films that people really resonate with and can still capture the cultural zeitgeist. They are working from behind, but that doesn't mean that there still can't be really, really, really impactful stuff that captures everybody's imagination. And so hopefully Fantastic Four will do that. Hopefully Thunderbolts can be a great on ramp to set that stuff up for Doomsday. And then hopefully Doomsday and Secret Wars really knock it out of the park. That's just my hopes and my anticipation for those movies. But time will tell. We'll ultimately see when they drop. Folks, those are all of our thoughts on the Marvel universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Sony Spider-Man universe, the Fox universe, everything related to Marvel. If you have any thoughts, ideas, opinions about the things that we talked about, hit us up and let us know what you think. But with all of that being said, that's all we have for this episode of Two Black Nerds, episode 299. Thank you again, as always, for tuning into another podcast. We only have one more episode left, guys. The time
One
is
more.
here. The time is now. One final episode that we're going to bring to you next week. It's going to be our mailbag episode. We've been getting questions and comments from fans and listeners of the podcast. We'll be here to talk about them, react to them, break them down, and share some final goodbyes for Two Black Nerds as we bring the podcast to a close. It's been a hell of a run, 5.5 years, really, really incredible things that I think we've been able to accomplish, but more importantly, the community that we've been able to build with each and every one of you. So very much looking forward to paying it forward and paying it back by answering questions and comments that you all have sent in and taken the time to share with us. And so can't wait to be back with that episode. So look out for that. If you haven't checked out our other episodes that we've recently produced, we got a great conversation with Zero Gravity about horror in the 21st century. We talked about Star Wars. We talked about DC. And of course, we talked about Marvel today. So many, many things wrapping up the podcast. We'll do the mailbag episode next week. Plenty to look forward to. But until then, we will see you guys next time.
Yes, sir. We are Audi 5000. Please check out the final season collection at twoblacknerds.com. And remember, always bet on black. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Thank you for listening to another episode of Two Black Nerds, where we're too black,
Too nerdy.
and we out, y'all. Peace.